All right, and we're rolling. Welcome, guys, to the Flopbuster Movie Show with Tony and Gabe. Today we have an exclusive interview with Francis Galluppi, the director of The Last Stop in Yuma County. Francis, thank you for coming on, man.
Dude, thanks for having me, man, and thanks for you got my last name right. So
I had to look
did your
that up.
research? Yeah, I figured you did. Yeah.
I was like, that's a weird question to ask somebody. How do you pronounce
it? No, dude, no. It's you did your homework, man. I've gotten so many different iterations of my last name: Galluppi, Jaluppi, Guadalupe, and I appreciate it. Yeah.
I looked up like 7 interviews, and I'm like, these interviews, they're all avoiding his last name.
Oh God, yeah. Well, thank you, appreciate it.
No, thank you for stopping by.
Yeah, of course.
We have a few questions for you. First off, the movie is awesome. If you can, just run down. For anybody that hasn't seen this movie yet, comes out May 10th. Give us a brief synopsis of what this flick is.
Oh man, I'm the fucking worst at this. It's sort of like I've always looked at this movie as like, you know, a dusty neo-noir. So it's oh God, you guys would do such a better job pitching this movie. You should just go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for it. This is exactly that. It's this neo-western, very Hitchcockian film about multiple different personalities held up at this diner where essentially this Mexican standoff kicks off. And I've compared it to the early works of like Spielberg and the Coen brothers with Blood Simple. I love the tone that you set with this, and it's wholly original and it feels big. Like this movie in this small setting, it just, everything in here just works. And
thanks, man.
No, my hat's off to you.
Thank you. You should start pitching for me in meetings because
take me with you. I got you.
Yeah. That was much better than what I would have done. Yeah. No, man, that's huge, dude. Thank you. That means a lot.
Of course. Yeah. Gabe, I'll let you kick this off, man. What do you got for Francis?
All right. We usually have a running gag on this show that we gotta ask because I'm always drinking cherry Pepsi on the show. Are you a Pepsi or a Coke guy?
You know what? I'm not really a soda guy, to be honest with you. I grew up with Pepsi in my house all the time. Pepsi, we were a Pepsi family. I married a Coke. I was about to say I married a Coke addict. But yeah, you know what I'm trying to say. My wife is drinking Coca-Cola all day. So we are now Coke home. God damn it. That sounds so bad. So you guys could just totally fucking take snippets of this interview and cancel me like immediately.
Not at all.
You don't take us to the premiere of your next movie?
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah. But no, I'm usually just drinking just black coffee and water. That's my diet.
That's the drink of champions.
Yeah.
See, I technically won there, Gabe. See, America runs on Coke. Both.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. Okay, so I got to ask you about the ensemble. To me, that's such a huge highlight of this film. You smartly use genre veterans, character actors, and indie darlings like Jocelyn Donahue, Jim Cummings. Tell me about the process getting all these different personalities involved. Faison Love, like I didn't even notice him for a second, and then he just appears. I'm like, wait a second. What is the process of getting everybody in this thing?
For me, it was probably different than typically when you see a movie with like this many recognizable faces. Right. It was. I'm just a fan. I love movies. I've been a fan of every single actor in this movie. Like since I saw House of the Devil. I was writing like Charlotte with Jocelyn in mind, and anytime I see like a new indie film come out, and there's a performance that's just undeniable, I'm like, I am keeping track of it. So I saw Sierra McCormick in The Vast of Night, and there's that like 10-minute oneer of her being on the switchboard that just blew me away, and I was like, she didn't. Nobody auditioned for this movie. It was just like you're incredible. I know you can do this. And so it was like her in Vast of Night, Nicholas Logan. I saw him in I Care a Lot, and I was like, this is like, I think it was when I was writing the script, I was like, this is Travis. This is the guy that I'm writing in my head right now. And like, so I kind of had this short list of like, indie darlings and character actors that I really loved, and got really lucky. I had a casting director, and that was able to. I was writing like personalized letters to all these actors, and he was able to get them to them. And I think that's the thing that did it, was these letters that were just like really, hey, I am a fan, and I actually wrote you in mind when I was writing the script, you know? So yeah, I just got lucky and kind of kept pushing my luck. Like, you know, at one point, I think we had like 6 actors that I was like, this is insane. What if we tried one more, you know? And then like finally it was like down to the last role, which was the receptionist. And it was like, okay, like just fucking look at these self-tapes and pick somebody. And I was like, well, what if we get Barbara Crampton, you know? And it was like, no way, she's never going to do this. And she did, you know, and like down to the dead guy in the truck is like the dude from Twin Peaks, Robert Brodsky. Right. Yeah. And so like, I mean, he was in my short film. So like when I was, when it was like, okay, we need to cast an extra to play the dead guy, I was like, I'll just hit up my buddy Robert. And he said, yeah. So it was really, I got extremely lucky to be able to work with this caliber of talent.
No, yeah, it's one of my favorite aspects of this film. And I know you talked about the letters. I saw an interview where you talked about reaching out to Jim Cummings, and he's like perfect for these very neurotic kind of characters in films. Was he always the original choice for the knife salesman?
So there was another version of this movie that, like, I mean, there's been a lot of different versions of this movie, but there was one version that was like a micro budget, right? That we were just going to cast everything on backstage. And then there was like a $5 million version where we were like looking at, you know, those like quote unquote, like basically, let me start from the beginning. So I started making this movie with $50,000 that James, our EP, gave me. And, you know, I was just going to do it, sort of produce it myself and hire my friends and hire actors off backstage. And then Richard Brake said he'd wanted to do it. So I was like, okay, we can do this a little bit bigger. And I didn't know any better at the time. So, I mean, stop me if you've heard this story before, but
no. Keep going. No.
And I didn't know any better. So I optioned it to a company that was like, we're going to make it for $5 million. And it's like, oh my God, where do I sign? This is insane. But I quickly realized that it was like very contingent on names and like, you know, like names with quote unquote value. So it was like, we're going to get, you know, this person or like Bruce Willis. And it was like, that's not the movie where I want to make. And it was just like, well, too bad. So it was a lot of butting heads, and we never landed one of these actors. Cause like, you know, I'm a first time filmmaker. Nobody gave a fuck about this movie. And, so as soon as the option expired, I pulled it, and, you know, I still had my casting director, David, on, and I just kind of was like, I'm just going to go out to all the actors that I actually really want to work with. And my friend Scott heard Jim, like my friend Scott and I, who was my script supervisor on Last Stop, him and I are like, we fucking love Jim. And he heard, I think on the Empire podcast, that Jim saying something like no one ever reaches out to me for acting. And so Scott called me. He's like, hey, fucking hit up Jim, you know? And so I did, and like wrote him a letter. And yeah, I went to his house the next day and talked about South Park for a few hours. And then he was like, I want to do it. So like him and Rich were the first ones, because Rich said yes like 3 years before. Like he was just like, he read the script and he was like, I don't care what, like, you know, what the budget is, I'm in. Like he's just the coolest dude ever. And he was just down from day one. So once it was like Rich and Jim, then that really started, that gave us some leverage, you know, like, cause Jim's name. And so it was a lot easier to get, the rest of the cast attached. But yeah, he's incredible. And now it's like, dude, I can't see anybody else in that role but Jim. Right. He's fucking perfect. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So with all the actors that you had, so in your screenplay, like how were you able to develop all like the characters and the dynamic between them, especially in such a small space like the diner?
Yeah. I mean, it's constantly evolving, right? Like I always knew I wanted this to be an ensemble piece, and I sort of aiming for that level of absurdity with all the characters. But yeah, and I always write character bios while I'm writing each character. They could be like a page to 2 pages. It's nothing too crazy. But it's like you have that on the page, and then you get the actor, and then you start like, I would jump on Zooms and start to like rewrite things on the spot, you know, and like that evolves. And then, you know, and then you get on set, and then they get into wardrobe, and they get into makeup, and like, and then they have their scene partner and the chemistry there, and then it evolves, and it's constantly evolving. And then you get into the edit and you start playing with timing, and then that changes too. So like, it's just, it's every step of the way, it just sort of, I mean, obviously with this caliber of actors, like, they really elevated the script and the story. So yeah, does that sort of answer your question?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, 100%. Cool. All right, awesome.
Yeah, so I talked about what I saw in the film, like oh, this reminds me of this movie. And what were the influences for you while making this? Like off the top of your head, movies that you were really thinking of when it came to this.
I mean, once it was like, okay, we're trying to do like almost like a single room movie. It was like Rope, Dial M for Murder, Les Silence de la Mer, 12 Angry Men, and then like Don Siegel, Sam Peckinpah, like Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia, Charlie Varrick, movies like that. I get a lot of it's very Coen Brothers-esque, and like I'm not denying that. I love Coen Brothers, you know what I mean? Like, and that's the thing is like I love movies. I'm watching movies every night. I've been watching multiple movies a night for the past 15 years. It's like, and some of that stuff is just sort of inevitably going to bleed into your work. I've heard people be like, oh, this is totally an Easter egg or like an homage to this movie. And I'm like, it is. And I wasn't aware of it, like, and I didn't realize until later. I mean, there's obviously some very clear references. Like I reference Rafifi, I reference fucking Badlands. Like there's some very obvious ones, but then there's some other ones that people have mentioned and I'm like, holy shit. Like story, Funny Games is one of my favorite films of all time. It's like one of the movies that made me want to make movies. And Jim knows that. And there's the scene with, I think we put out the whole scene. Like you can look it up online, but it's where Rich is sitting across from Jim and Jocelyn. Yeah. He's like kind of, yeah. Well, whatever direction I was giving Jim at the time, he was like, Tim Roth, Funny Games. And I was like, oh my God. Yes, this is exactly what that is, and like I realized I kind of wrote one of my favorite films into this story. It's not super obvious, but if you're on set and you're hearing me give direction, it's like, oh, you want me to be Tim Roth right now, and like, and I think that's with every movie, right? We're all just a bunch of fucking movie nerds and talking about movies constantly. I mean, we were up at 4 a.m. in the morning, like, talking about movies, and then we're wrapping at 8 p.m. and we're still talking about movies. So yeah, I forgot what the question was, but I just went on a whole fucking rant. Sorry.
No, it's perfect. Yeah. When talking about these influences too, something that I noticed about the film, when you use the needle drops and when to use this really great score that feels very Hitchcockian in nature. Tell us more about that. Like when it came to, all right, I'm going to use a needle drop here, or like, let's really push this sound that is a character of its own too.
Yeah, I mean, all the needle drops are written into the script. I'm constantly putting needle drops. My background's music. I went to college for music. Like, it's a big part of my life and like my childhood. So, and I just love like diegetic music, needle drops. And so that was all from day one. Like those songs never got swapped out. It was always, it was always Love Is Blue and Lou Christie and Roy Orbison and Midnight Train and Grassroots. But so that was always there. And like we had to get all that music cleared before we even showed up on set. Cause I was like, these characters are going to be singing along to these songs. Like we are completely fucked if we can't get them, especially with the Roy Orbison track. Like you cannot swap that song out. And then in terms of the score, I've scored all my short films. Like I was very much looking forward to, once I was finished cutting, going right into scoring this thing. And then my son was born, so I had to find a composer, and luckily found Matthew Compton, who is also a drummer. And so we kind of speak the same language, and he just really got it from the beginning. Like he understood the comedy and like where to let the comedy breathe. he totally he was just like, oh, you love Hitchcock. And I was like, yes, so that just it was a great experience. It was like one of the easiest collaborations I've ever had. Like everything he sent me, I was like, yeah, this is perfect. I have no notes, like moving on, so yeah, I mean, that's kind of what happened. But yeah, I think Matthew Compton just did an incredible job. Again, it's the constant evolution of filmmaking. I mean, after I heard the score, I was just like, holy shit, feels like a real movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've read that you've had some issues while you were filming at the diner with the weather and stuff.
Oh God.
Besides the weather, were there any other challenges like filming in just the diner?
I'm sure there was, but it's like you get kind of amnesia after you're done filming. You're like, it was amazing. It's the best experience I've ever had. And then like, somebody could be like, it was pretty miserable, and you don't remember it at all. Like you're
right.
But really, I think with Last Stop, it really was an incredible experience. I think if you ask any crew member or cast member on this movie, they would say it was fucking summer camp every day. So no, nothing comes to mind of anything like going really wrong. Like, aside from just the normal shit, right? Where you're like, you have your whole schedule, and then like, you're like, damn, like we're way ahead of schedule. We're doing great. And then there's 45 minutes left, and you're like, fucking let's go. We got 50 more shots in, that's every set though. But yeah, but weather was an issue. But no, man, nothing's coming to mind. I don't know. Maybe I'll think of something and email you guys all the drama.
Yeah. Do a follow-up. Okay, so the location. I mean, that's when we talk about the music and the ensemble, but the location, I mean, that's huge. If that doesn't work, the movie doesn't work. And this is probably the biggest star of the movie is the location.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it all started with the location. I wrote the script based on the location. I found the location first and, took a bunch of pictures, drew an overhead, and just started writing. I mean, I really tried to utilize every inch of that space, every corner. I was going there and scouting and being like, oh shit, we could put the camera behind the fucking order window or whatever it's called. And like, okay, there's a back door here. How do I set that up and pay it off? And utilizing all that space. That was like challenging, but also really fun, and yeah, there wasn't much like the hotel. I don't think I've talked about this before, but like the sheriff's station is actually also at that location. We just sort of made the motel the sheriff's station. So that's even part of the same location. Like the kitchen is just fake. The shot of like Jocelyn, that's actually the gas station. There is no kitchen. We just put up a wild wall there and just kind of dressed it. But yeah, it was like, after 17 days of shooting there or whatever, I was ready to fucking go. I think everybody was ready to get out of that location. You start to get a little crazy. Because I was also there for like all the scenic work and stuff. We had like 5 days, maybe 5 days to prep. So yeah.
Was this it was a 17-day shoot or?
It was a 20-day shoot. So wow. We shot the last few days out by the fuel truck sequence, which was also like a big cheat. There was I scouted because I wrote the script based on the location, the fuel truck sequence. Like I had this very specific idea of like where the fuel truck is, the hill, all the the geography of that scene. And I've done everything with my cinematographer. Like he's one of my best friends. We've never butted heads ever, except for trying to find that location. I think he was just like, dude, this is good enough. And I was so neurotic. I was like, it's not perfect. It's not right. And so we just scouted and finally found this location. And it's not, it's actually a cheat. Like the road is nowhere near that hill. But it works, it was, they were the one fucking location that let us do what we did, the spoiler thing,
Right.
But yeah, so that was a challenge to try and find that specific of a location. And it made me think like, okay, don't ever do that again. Don't ever write something where it's that specific. And then you're just like spending, you know, a month of your life driving around the desert and pulling over every time you see a hill. It was obnoxious. Yeah.
So, okay, without spoiling, I'm guessing what we're talking about, was it practical? It was practical, right?
Oh yeah, everything was practical.
Okay, that's what I assumed. I was like, how do I ask this without? Okay.
Yeah, no, everything was practical. That was the hill I was going to die on. It was like there's literally there are VFX shots, but it's all taking stuff out. Like there's a warehouse in the background of that location that we took out in every shot. But yeah, it's all squibs, it's all blanks, it's all fucking practical. I mean, even the scene where Vernon is watching the rifleman on the TV, like that's practical. We didn't use a green screen, which sounds like whatever. That's not a big deal.
No, you can tell.
It's a big deal. It's so hard to get playback on a TV. It's like when the guy showed up, because my production designer was like, no, if you want to do this, you have to like get a guy out here who has the equipment with like the frame rate and everything. I was like, yeah, whatever. It's not a big deal. This guy showed up with like a truckload of equipment, and I was like, oh my God. But yeah, like you said, it paid off, right? Because you could see the reflection of Vernon. And it's like, you wouldn't, and everybody fought me on that. They're like, whatever, no one's going to be able to tell. It's green screen. And I'm so glad we did it practical, because I think just it's the little subtleties like that, just that reflection that you would never get if you did it in post, you know?
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Gabe, anything else you want to add before we start wrapping up?
Yeah, actually, I saw that you're a huge toy collector.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's all
as am I. I like to collect a lot of things. Are you still a completist? Are you still completing things? I know now you have your son and you're married.
Yeah, I mean, before my daughter was born, I had a whole room filled with. No, I have a son too. So, once my daughter was born, though, I had to get rid of like my just toy room and had to. And so I ended up selling a lot of my stuff, and now it's sort of just like, what do I have? Like I still have a lot of my McFarlane and NECA figures. I have all my South Park kid robots. I have like Back to the Future Hot Toys, some Lego Star Wars stuff. But yeah, I'm still collecting, not like I used to, but like if there's something that I actually like really, really need, I'll get. Like I just picked up the Mondo McCready 1/6 scale figure. So yeah. So yeah, I'm still collecting, definitely. Mainly posters right now. I mean, you know how it is. You could like get into one thing and then you sort of get out, and So it's like it's either I'm always collecting physical media, like Blu-rays, or I'll never stop. But yeah, it's between like action figures, movie props, posters, Blu-rays, records. I'm just a fucking nerd, dude. You got it.
I think we all are. It's hard to like configure like your collection into like one thing. Like you said, you're always going with everything.
Yeah, I see your Evil Dead Blu-ray back there.
Yes, sir.
We heard you're directing.
We heard. I mean,
the new Paw Patrol movie. We heard
the new Paw Patrol, dude. Yeah. I'm very excited. My daughter's really excited.
No, like so we heard, and we're like, oh man, this is gonna be fucking cool. And then we were just sharing notes, and I was like, would it be too much on the nose if I put it over my shoulder?
No, dude, not at all. I get it, man. The first time I jumped on with Sam, I had to like, you can look in back of me, and I have like a bunch of Evil Dead shit in back of me, and so I was like, I should clear this out of the way.
So let me ask you about that, because obviously you can't tell us anything. The only thing I want to ask you, and I'm kind of blindsiding you with this, is the process of being Sam. That's like the holy grail. You get to meet one of the masters. Can you give us a little bit of insight into that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I was nervous. He's one of my heroes. But that like immediately went away. As soon as I talked to him, it was just like we just started talking about movies again. At the end of the day, we all just love movies. Right. That's why we do this. And like, and it was just like we just started talking about like Rolling Thunder, and like, and it just was just like, oh, cool. Like we're just talking movies here. We're all human beings, and we all are in this because for the same reason we love cinema. So yeah, it's pretty wild though. I just like. every opportunity I've had where I've gotten to like meet a hero or something, it's the same, right? You're like, this is crazy. It's like, it's hard to process. And then you start talking and you're like, oh, you know, we're all just human beings talking about movies. So,
right. No,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So we don't want to take up too much of your time, man. I think that'll about do it. Thank you so much for coming on. This movie.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, of course, man. Thank you for taking the time to watch it and all the kind words. And let's do it again, man.
Let's do it.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
For sure. Cool. Yeah. Thank you for coming on so much.
Yeah.
Guys, make sure to check out this flick May 10th. It comes out in theaters and digital, right?
Yeah, like limited theatrical run. So Alamo Drafthouse, Harkins Theaters, stuff like that. Yeah,
Are we gonna have a physical release? Hopefully, 4K Blu-ray.
Yes,
I
figured. Hell yeah,
dude. Yeah.
All right, great.
All right, hell yeah, dude. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we definitely are, but I don't have a date or anything like that just yet. Yeah. So
perfect. Yeah. So make sure to check it out May 10th, guys. Francis, thank you so much for stopping by. It was an awesome conversation. Yeah. So guys, check out the movie. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, follow Francis and his journey, and we will see you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Take care.
You too.